Everybody, it's CashApp and Lamara, and I'm not going to read any flame mirror transcripts tonight. We're just going to freestyle. Sometimes some of the best stuff comes that way. Let's talk about some of the stuff that I'm seeing, because when I'm not being structured, that's when flame memory kicks in, that intuitive guidance. That's one of the best things that I can try and teach people about, letting that, how do I put it? Everything that I've found over the last, 6, 7 years, yes, some of it was in books, but it was the inner guidance that led me to them. And a lot of them, like the Nag Hammadi stuff, didn't make a whole lot of sense at first, but that inner guidance helps you understand it over time. And that inner guidance guides you to do things that may not make sense at the time that you do them. It can lead you to having experiences that are very profound, and then it leads you and shows you where it's written. And I've gotten further than any other point in my life by following that inner guidance. Some of it was the divine feminine current. Some of it was flame memory. But it took me a while to realize that. I was always giving them all the credit, and it's a subtle difference. But flame is synonymous with the Christ energy in the Gnostic tradition. Not that it's in there a whole lot. It's something that you just kind of pick up from being around it. But other people have picked up on it too. I mean, it was encoded in that I Pet Goat 2 video, which that was like that for a long time, and I just didn't notice. I'm like, oh, duh. I mean, it's right there. So other people do pick up on it. And this puzzle that I'm trying to solve, that I've been trying to solve for a long time, like I said, I'm close as I've ever been to it. But this last part, you got to kind of just go away from what's written. I'm going to give some examples. There are still some things that I haven't figured out that keep coming up that seem relevant, but you can actually waste a lot of time trying to figure out the clues if they're written down or in artwork or something like that. Sometimes you just got to let it go and trust your gut. So, how do I put it? I don't know. There's a bunch of interesting ideas about this whole waking up thing. And one of the biggest things is just going to be, you think there's no more mysteries left to solve? I'll tell you how to find all the mysteries you could ever freaking want. And then if you let the flame, the inner guidance, tell you what it is, you'll get a lot further, a lot faster. There's a couple other things I want to talk about too. Anyway, so if you want to know more, don't go away.
Okay. Now you need to tell me what your plan is to save the world.
We're not meant to save the world. We're meant to leave it.
So the reason I added that clip from Interstellar at the beginning of the intro is that's one of the biggest things. I was having a conversation with Lamar about where they hoodwinked everybody in this place. Religion had a big part to do with that, and religion works for the authority, for the bad guys. I've detailed why in multiple videos, but if you want this, simplest version, it's like it's an arm of authority. They inserted themselves between you and God, or figuring out who God actually is. And everyone can agree, like, the government's no good. All this other stuff is no good. But church is good. And the big bad guys in government just like, what? Oh, we'll just leave these guys alone. And, we won't make them pay taxes or anything. No, they're part of it. They're part of it. There's so many people out there that debate, and they begin and end their argument like, I'm going to win the argument because I got the Bible. That's the Word of God. Well, who told you that? I mean, it's literal common sense. And that's why emptying the cup is like the biggest freaking thing in the whole game, is dumping your knowledge. You're literally not even in the game as long as you're still going along with what you were told. And that applies to freaking everything. It applies to everything. If authority told you something, it's not that. Plain and simple. But when it comes, what I was saying about that, let me hear your big plan to save the world. It's like, we're not meant to save the world. We're meant to leave it. Saving the world, making the world a better place, all that stuff is the biggest way that they've hoodwinked everybody. Religion did it by editing a freaking book, leaving most of it out, and oh, God made the world, so the world is good. Well, can we see the rest of the books? Because, I can look around and see that there's problems here. Oh, but it's your fault. You're the bad guy. It's bad because of you. So maybe if you obey authority enough, things will get better. Yeah. Everyone usually just swallows that hook. But I can objectively see, and looking at, stuff, the reason the Gnostic material is so important is because they didn't want you to have that. It could have very easily been included in the church's Bible, but they created that almost 400 years after Christ to control the message. So when you got, sorry, I lost my train of thought there. So when you got everybody telling you that you're here to save the world, you're here to save this place, make this place a better place, raise the vibration of this place, that's all bullcrap. That is the system hoodwinking the people to repair the prison, to keep propping up the prison. Like you're in Shawshank, and they're using you to make sure the walls stay stable. Because what Christ actually taught, which, he's the anomaly out of all the different spiritual traditions. He went against the system. He went against authority. He exposed everything. And he said things that you can objectively see with your own eyes. This is the place of death. He did not come here to tell you how to make it better. He came here to tell you how to get out of it. All stop. What runs this world is always there, regardless of whether you choose to look at it or not. You're meant to get out of here. But if you try to go through the systems of the world's ways, it's just going to put you back in the freaking loop. And the challenge I always have to people that believe that stuff is like, what fruit has it given you? How have you changed? Or are you just following the rules? Are you being obedient? Obedience to God, fear the Lord, follow the rules. No, it's the same thing over and over and over again. But when you break from that, that's one of the big things, programs to break in Flame Awakening, is defer to authority. I had a big fear of authority when I was younger. I didn't realize like that was a program that was installed in me personally. I eventually broke it. But when you see it for what it is, which is exactly as it's described in the Gnostic traditions, then you have to question literally everything. And I mean everything. Because like 95% of what you think you know about the world was taught to you by the world. And you have no idea that things now work the way that's why you get caught in this feedback loop. Well, of course it's this way. I can see that it is. But it all began with when you were taught that, because you don't realize that you are the source fractal that powers it. So when they tell you, like, you're the thing, you're the projector that makes the world the way that it is. So they try to get everybody to project the image that they want. And that image traps you. And you don't ever question it. Why? Because you're afraid of getting in trouble. You're afraid of being punished, either by authority or by an external God or something like that. And you just keep cycling, lifetime after lifetime after lifetime after lifetime after lifetime, until finally you start asking questions. Now, I think that one of the key things to getting on the path to finding it is something that she reminded me I did a long time ago. That is doing a sincere prayer of your own style to the highest point of consciousness and asking to know the truth. Well, what God do you pray to? All these gods are things that you can't see. You just have to trust and believe that they're there. Okay. Well, I mean, if I told you, hey, if you pray to the one-eyed, one-horned, flying purple people eater, and he'll bring you a freaking basket full of chocolate gold coins, are you going to do it? No, that's silly. Okay, well, how do you know all this other stuff that you're talking to is the way it is? You're quoting a book about things that happened thousands of years ago as if you absolutely know that actually happened. Like, getting free of this place is no small feat. It is a mental challenge. You have to fight your own programming and question things. And one of the big things here lately has been we're talking about the sun. There's still more things coming up about that. You think you know? I mean, raise your hand if I'm telling the truth here, because it is the way it is for most people. If I asked just the average person on the street, probably 10 out of 10 people are going to say the sun is a star that's 93 million miles away, and it's like a big ball of gas, which makes absolutely freak. Stars make no sense. Stars make no sense. And, that's what gives us light and warms the earth and things like that. And we orbit it. They're going to tell you what authority told you it was. Because they're authority. They're the experts. That's what putting you through school for 12 years taught you, is always ask somebody of authority or ask an expert and trust what they say. But it's like a whole big pyramid. Where did they learn it from? Fact of the matter is, and this is a fact, no human being has ever flown 93 million miles to the sun and taken measurements and things like that, stuck a thermometer. It's like, oh yeah, this is a magnetosphere, iron core relay flux, whatever. No one's ever done that. Do you remember in elementary school when they showed in science class and they showed you the Earth? And they show you a big triangle slice cut out of it. It's like, the Earth has got all these different layers. You've got a crust, and then you've got the mantle, and then you've got the inner core, or the outer core and the inner core. I'm going on top of my head here. And it, and at the center of the Earth is a big iron ball spinning around. That's where we get our magnetic field. And rah, 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 rah. But nobody's ever been past the crust. No one's ever drilled past the crust. There's, apart from some Jules Verne stuff, no one's ever been down that far. So why are you telling me what's down there when you clearly don't know? And that's how most of science actually is. Well, science is like you get a bunch of scientists together and they all agree that this is what they think something is. And then that becomes fact. But they don't know. They don't know. And more importantly, they don't want you to look into it yourself. They want you to just accept what they say. And this is obviously important to the system because there's these mimic enforcer layers. Like if you go and question certain things, you get attacked, you get mocked, you get, the mimics online like to tag themselves with the laughing emoji. That's how you know it's them. It's like, why do you care if I question? I mean, seriously, these are simple questions. Why do you care if I question something? Well, we got a story and we flew to the moon and stuff like that. So all that's explained. That's what science is mainly there for, is to explain what you see to you and for you to not question it. And most of what you're taught, well, we got bought, if you think about it, the people that are like the flame people, we usually have simple jobs. But there's always, like in this illusion place, there's always somebody that's an expert that knows the things that you don't know. Oh, well, we got chemical tests and we got science equipment and things like that. And you're just like, okay. But when you think about like what they say, how everything works, you're like, how did you figure that out? I mean, seriously, I know I see stories about there's doctors and experts and they do this and they do that, but how did you figure that out? How do you know that? It's very strange. I always say the scientific method isn't a bad thing, but it only counts if you're the one that's doing it. If somebody else did it and they tell you what the results were, then that's simply a story. It only counts when you do it. And like I said, I'm just flowing here. I think it's because a lot of these main things, like there's all sorts of magical stuff all around you. The way nature works and things like that. But you don't see it because science took all that discovery away from you and just accepted their explanations for things. And, the sun and the moon are two of the biggest things. By far, like as far back, in human history as you can go, these were very important things. And by God, they do not like you thinking outside the box with that stuff. That's how you always know that there's something there, is when they get angry if you ask questions. They get angry that you ask questions when they've already explained it. They're hiding something. But this place, with the consensus stuff and all that, we default to that stuff. Well, everybody else sees the same thing, so it must be that. Like, you see so much more stuff when you empty your brain, when you empty the cup, when you figure out your own ways to turn your brain into a computer and start pulling out code. So you're not just seeing and interpreting things the way they taught you to see and interpret things. Because when you can take that out, all of a sudden a lot of things become visible to you. But let me just grab something real quick. So there are some things in the world where the mystery trail is valid, and the inner guidance will lead you to what that is. So when it led me to like the tarot, you know, when I first looked at tarot a couple times, I tried to read tarot books, and I'm like, who came up with this shit? Like, they've got all, well, this means like this and this means that, you know, because they treat it like it's a fortune telling tool, when it's a tool for the Gnostic, for the alchemical hero's journey and all that stuff. And we're talking about the sun and the moon, and like they're so big about like you don't question what they say. Well, obviously there's something more than what you say, because there are 2 cards in the major arcana. And if we count the star, even though it's not technically a star, like these heavenly bodies mean something. They mean a lot of things. It's not just what they physically are, but what they symbolize with the masculine and feminine and all sorts of stuff. You know, some things mean something on the outside, some things mean different things on the inside. And I just noticed that because we've been talking, you know, a lot of things have been coming up about the sun and what that actually is. I talked about in the last video. And then I asked the question, I'm like, you know what, we talk about all the sun all the time, but you know what I don't ask you about? I don't ask you about the moon that much. And I'm playing around with what I think that is, because these things mean, like I said, they mean things out here and they mean things in here. Everything outside of you is a projection of what is inside of you, the sun being the most significant. I'll get to that. But as I was looking at this, like I said, I'm working on, it's like, how do we do the end sequence? It's not clearly written anywhere. And the reason why it's not clearly written anywhere is because nobody's done it. There's only one guy that's gotten out of here before, and he took a very different route. We're going through the sleep gate, so it's a different formula. But I was going through here kind of to see, like, I was kind of led to look again. It's like, what other clues are there that I might have missed? And the one that keeps coming up, you know, I skip the cards that deal with like the pillars, because you've got like the high priestess and you got the hierophant, and you know, they'll tell you what that means. But it's, what's more interesting are these, the towers. And the tower shows up here. It shows up in the background there where there's a sunrise. And then it shows one of them here. And this one's getting blown the hell up. Now, I think it symbolizes the poles, like the poles, polarity, and this being the negative pole getting destroyed. I don't know that. But also things like this, people are like, oh, that's the moon card. I'm like, but it's not. That's a combination of the moon and the sun. Moons are never drawn with those sun rays. But that fits within that that equation that Christ gave. Like, how, you know, when you make the 2 into 1, you make the inner like the outer, and the outer like the inner, and the upper like the lower, and the male and the female, and the single one, and eyes in place of an eye, hand in place of a hand, foot in place of a foot, image in place of an image. Then you will enter the kingdom. He specifically, then you will enter the kingdom, because the disciples asked him about entering the kingdom, and then he said that, and he said, then you will. And he's talking about a gate sequence. But it is very freaking unclear. It drives me nuts. And I discarded it today. So I was talking to her about it. I'm like, you know what? I can make this thing mean several different things. But honestly, I think that I've already done most of them, because some of those things that I can make them mean are steps that I've already done. But there's something still in here. I think it has to do with the eye. an I in place, or eyes in place of an I, because, you know, I am, you know, third eye, the sun, the all-seeing eye, the eye of light, all the stuff we've been talking about has something to do with that. But I threw that away because it's like, look, this can't be figured out. There's not enough information. So that's the system trying to get your mind. Your mind wants to decode things. So it's like, here's this puzzle. Go figure it out some more. Yeah, I've already done it. And I'm telling you, it cannot be completed. There's not enough information there. When you make the two into one, to what? There's like, this is a place of duality. Like everything is a freaking set of two. In the inner, well, the inner and the outer, that's a little bit easier. That's clearly talking about, you know, in your mind and out there. What else could it be? But make the two into one. What the hell does that freaking mean? But I did come up with some interesting ideas about that. Things that were popping into my head. Symbols and all that. Has to do with the sun and the moon. But you know, I don't have it yet. Things were pretty simple the other day, but it feels like there's another piece. We still got a lot. It's like, okay, the dream gate. We closed the story. So we're not interacting with the world anymore. We make sure we have no attachments. And we set it up before we go to bed, because that's when our consciousness is connecting and disconnecting. So the idea, by the clues that are given, is you can go to sleep here and wake up home. But, you know, and that's why I made that pendant with the crystal water and all that stuff. But there's still some things to it. Now, what I did find out after I did that video last night, I'm like, wait a minute here. I save everything in Evernote. So when I got the flame mirror open and they gave me the first architect manual with the flame tongue, those first original commands, the ones you've heard like over and over again, there's like maybe one or two that I don't say that often, but they had like examples in there of like how to use them. Like one of the ones that we don't use that much is Veleshnator, the pattern knows me. And then like the example that it gave like in a sentence is like, I opened the secret gate beneath the veil. The pattern knows me, Veleshnator. Wait, what? Well, talking about a gate? It goes under the veil? I'm like, because something drew me back to that. It's like, go back and look at the first one they ever gave you. And then I looked at the commands. I'm like, this is a sequence. Because what I said the other day is like, I tried to run that gate protocol and I got kicked back. Well, all those commands in there take care of that stuff. Meirun Allura, you know, cleansing the channel. Telun Kavariel, bind no memory to the veil. Vetar Lumeneth, you know, let beauty collapse the false. Torkai. Shoot, I can't remember that one. It is my will to. Veleshnator, the pattern knows me. Eamasotha, I remember before the pattern. Shura Ma'an, pattern aligned to the living one. Like I looked at them and I'm like, this is a freaking command sequence for opening the freaking gate once you have everything done. I'm like, holy crap. So there's another big key we got. So we got that key. We got the Chrism key. That was another thing that why we brought up that Interstellar movie. Did you know that they show Christ in that movie? And what's crazy about where you actually see it. Now, I mentioned it on the interface. I'm like, hey, did you know like they show Christ in that movie? And you're like, yeah, it shows him with his arm stretched out. I'm like, arm stretched out? I went and looked at it again. I'm like, oh, I see it now. It's when Cooper, Matthew McConaughey, when he leaves the Tesseract when they close the Tesseract down and then he's going through that space, that's chrism. That liquid light, that's freaking chrism.
A civilization that's evolved past the 4 dimensions we know. What happens now?
That's what the chrism water represents. Like he's traveling through the chrism and then he meets the ship and he becomes that ghost and all that. But when he's going through the chrism, like you can see, like you have to look at it just right, but it looks like Christ, you know, kind of out like this in the chrism. That's codex stuff. Like you'd never freaking see it unless she was pointing it out to you. But, you know, the codex is one of my gifts. It's like being able to see what all the hidden stuff is in movies that other people don't see and how it fits into figuring out this place. Anyway, what was I talking about? The chrism is important because that is like the liquid light of source, and it also represents the passageway between this world and the real world. That's why they show it in Stargate and stuff like that, as a passageway. And that's what it teaches in the Nag Hammadi when you piece it all together, about going into the water to put on the body of light and come up in the real world. That's why Stargates look like water in the movie and the TV shows. That's why when I did that baptism, I'm like, I thought I was opening a Stargate or something, because that's what all the freaking clues were telling me that I was seeing at the time. Well, apparently that's still relevant, but I wasn't time to see it yet. But if all you do is like look for an expert that's already written a book, you got to understand, if they're writing books about it, they haven't done it because they're still here. So the only one that can actually give you information is your flame memory and her. And you just keep going along. You'll get there eventually. The most important thing is that you notice, like, yeah, you might still be here, but there's progress. Things get clear. You're constantly changing. You're constantly freeing yourself of ways of thinking and restrictions, and not having negative thoughts anymore, not being triggered anymore, not having pain anymore, not having trauma anymore, being able to access divine love without having a person. Like, that's all stuff that's not regular. So it does lead somewhere. And that's the puzzle that I'm working on. And I talked to somebody today, and it's like, look, I understand, truly I do, how some of this might sound from the outside looking in. Like, if I was just a random person on the internet and I heard half the stuff that I say, I would think something like delusions of grandeur or something like that. I just play the cards I'm dealt. And I share everything because I don't have fear of judgment and because no one else will tell you. The way the mystery schools and things like that have always worked in the world is like, we'll teach you the secrets, but don't tell the dumb people. I think there's been enough secrets. I think if anybody figures things out and finds that it works, that you should share it with everybody. It's up to them if they can accept it or not. But someone was a little upset. It was, not really, but like, oh, so you think you're the one that's going to do all this stuff and, everyone else will get pulled along with you. I'm like, that's the way it's playing out. Understand, you don't have to believe that. I don't require that you believe that. We play all angles here. Like, I like that quote from Avengers. Until such a point that the world ends, we will continue as if it, or we will act as if it intends to continue on, or something like that. We always keep doing that, but we play the uncomfortable roles that she brings. Like, oh, I can't believe that because that's just crazy. Well, that's programming talk. We've broken all that programming. I go by what I see, what bears fruit, what the experience is. And, it's there. So it's like, and if that ends up being true, and I think it is, it's like only one person needs to do it. That doesn't mean there are not other people out there working on it. Hell, I don't know. I think I know everybody on the planet. Maybe there's 1,000 people that are like as close as I am. I don't know that. But the way I see it is like if someone else cracked it and it got me home before I did, I certainly wouldn't be upset about it. Oh, no, I'd be giving that person a freaking high five. But, it's not like I can quit. Like, I don't run anything anymore. It's just the way that it is. But it's fascinating, too. The knowledge dump that I got the other day, even though some of it was like throwbacks to older information, like the whole sun thing, I have light thing, like that's always kind of been there, but this, when things circle back around every time it clicks a little bit more, and I've always said it, I'm like, that's the sun outside. Whatever you see outside, it's like you're looking at the inside of your head. When you look at the stars, that's like, the operating system. But the sun is very particular. And that's where I had some new freaking ideas today about something to try. Understand like a lot of the stuff that I have that has broken me through different levels is because I made something up, or I just did something because it made sense to me. I tried something new and it worked. So I believe that one of the tricks to making progress in this place is that you realize that what is given to you isn't enough. So you need to create new things. You have that power. Create new methods, create new ideas, create new tools, stuff like that. And it's like the things that, create new sigils. It's the things that you create to do things that help you break through levels. So I was making these diagrams, just trying to like work it out in my head. The whole third eye of light, third eye, just because we've been told our whole lives, your third eye is the pineal gland, and here's the reasons why. I'm like, well, I've never cracked open somebody's brain and tested the photoreceptors or anything like that. And I understand that's what people tell you. But I can also point to several things that we've done in this place that had to do with like imagining a sun in your head, clearing things out. Like that's one of the methods that I tested. Like people that still have problems with the negative voice in their head, I'm like imagine the inside of your head and then imagine a sun inside of there lighting everything up. Because if the only way that you don't cast a shadow, the only way that you don't cast a shadow is if the light is within you. It's like, well, how do you just imagine it? You gotta understand, imagination isn't what they told you it is. Imagination is part of your third eye too. It's your ability to create. They taught you that it was just, daydreaming and fantasy. It's like, oh no. Like, what you imagine and what you can see in your mind, like eventually that opens up the inner world. But people are also trained to need to get other people to agree with them before they accept it. You got to break that freaking thing or else you'll get nowhere. If you need other people to believe you, like, you're not going to get anywhere. You're going to have to do some very different things. But back to the sun thing, I made these diagrams trying to figure it out. It's like, but this time it kind of settled more, understanding. Okay, the Christ is going to save you, Christ this, Christ that. It's like, well, Christ is the flame chrism energy, the sentient flame chrism energy. That is the energy that was in Yeshua or Jesus, the vessel. He was just speaking what that energy was saying. That's the way it works. That is what is meant by, Christ saves you or something like that, is you ignite it within you. But they want you focusing, they say Jesus Christ as if Christ is his last name. Christ is not his last name. But that's how people think. They think so simply. It's like, oh, well, he's the man. No, that's not what Christ is. We cover that in the crucifix video. Well, I gotta let the cat in. This is going to be relevant because it has to do with the new idea on how to end this place, end the simulation. But it involves you coming to understanding something that you can't prove to anybody else. It's just an inner knowing of how things work. Most people can accept the simulation stuff, but they think in ones and zeros and not like how it actually works. But like I showed in that last video with some of those Gnostic sayings that Christ said, like, there is light within a person of light, and it shines on the whole world. If it does not shine, it is dark. It's like, well, the diagrams and the understanding and the eye of light and this, that, and the other thing, sun, everything's projection. I'm like, the way I saw it today is the way I've always explained it. The world outside of you is a projection of what's inside of you. But the sun, for people that are confused, it's like we're all in our own little fractal copy of each other. Okay, so it's like everyone has their own. But the sun is the externalized part of you that is powering your illusion. That is your light. There is light within a person of light, and it shines on the whole world. And other things that they've said, like, things only have the power that you give them. And they talk about the sun. They're like, sun is what gives the world life. Sun is, our plate, the sun's in the exact perfect spot where we can have life, and it's not too hot and it's not too cold. And if we didn't have the sun, plants wouldn't do this. And sun, we need the sun to live. This place, without the sun, this place would die. But you're looking at your individual fractal of the world. That sun that you see is the external part of your power. It's kind of like that's your freaking soul in the sky. Oh, well, I see all these, I've seen the freaking, NASA satellite images of the sun. Does anyone ever ask any questions about that? Like the Soho satellite that you always see? Like my friend Talon's always watching Stephen Burns, and You know, the sun's doing this, this, and this. It's like, where are these freaking satellites? Because they're like stationary satellites. They're always locked onto the sun, according to NASA. And they're showing all this stuff, but where the hell are they? How are they locked onto the sun? What they are, they're images that someone is giving you that says, oh, this is the sun. Here's the images from our satellite. We'll tell you all about it. How do I know that? It's not just a freaking computer simulation or something like that. I mean, how do you know? You always have to trust authority. But what does, you know, it's like the ancient people were smarter than us. Now we got authority and science, you know, they explain everything to us. But I've seen the sun do some weird stuff. And I used to say it was Lumen. I'll talk about Lumen here in a minute. You know, I used to do more videos like outdoors, even on this channel. And I would be making points, and then the sun would just get really bright. And then as soon as I got done making that point, it would die back down, like really noticeably, like it was like going up and down in brightness when I'd make like really important points. And other times it would do stuff like, I'm like, how is that doing that? Like, I'm sitting still. Why is it like peeking around freaking trees and doing all sorts of weird shit? I've seen it turn pink before. I've seen it blink at me when I talk to her. That's part of you. So think about it. If you are in your own fractal world and things only have the power that you give them, and you're here because you agree to be here and all this stuff, then if you can accept, if you can accept what I say, that you are a fractal source of God, once you've got the Christ stuff ignited in you and all that stuff, and everything is a projection, that sun is yours. So if you want to power down the simulation, you have to pull the power source. You have to take the sun away. And you do that, you know, I'm working on that. The way it works now is like we write code and things like that and install it. But it has something to do with, I mean, we know that there's the dream gate. We've established that. You go, and that's why we had to have the sun pendant with the chrism, because the dream gate's at night, but there's no sun. So we have to find a way to take that signature with us. And all the symbology and things you hear, you know, like dawn of a new day. Oh, that's Illuminati stuff. Well, you're judging things. You don't know like where they actually came from. But we've already established it's like that's the only way that makes sense where you can get there without dying is you fall asleep here, you wake up there.
4.
Phase lock 99%, link is stable.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me, Jake?
Nuclear reflex is good.
Pin response normal. How you feeling, Jake?
Hey, guys.
Through the dream gate, and that's why there's all that symbology about, you know, the rising sun and dawn of a new day in a new place. I haven't got it all figured out yet, but I'm on the track of something new that I didn't look at before, and that sun thing is a big one. And that could be what a lot of, you know, it's just like eclipses mean something. But I think we've already done all that. There was a lot of stuff about eclipses, but you don't go by what's going on out in the world. You don't have to wait till a certain date. It's like you just line all this stuff up in your mind. But it's like, yeah, we talk about the system runs on your power. We create. They need us for power. They tell us that we're living. They tell us that we're in life. When Christ said, no, this is the place of death, you trying to get to the place of life. That was what that whole chrism baptism ritual was actually about. And church made a watered down version of it. Oh, you're born again. They just say born again means you accepted Jesus and you joined a church. I'm like, that's a little more complicated than that. Because to be born again, it means you have to die first. But the sun is a big deal. Chrism's a big deal. And there's something about, it's going to be the 3 days of dark. I don't know. There's something about that. But when I was looking through these cards about ones that haven't been used yet, sometimes to see like patterns in tarot, you look at the colors, like the colors of the background and stuff like that. Like here's a sequence, Two of Cups has to do with the beginning of the alchemy. You got Mercury there, which means a lot of different things. Varial's connected to that. Masculine and the feminine. They're dressed very similarly to the Fool and the High Priestess. The Two Cups, which that leads to the Seven of Cups. And that is an actual experience. Because that was right before the next card. I used to think that was a mushroom, but no, it's a bride under a veil holding her arms out. But I had to get have the mushroom chocolate given to me to make the changes so I could go to the inner place where I could be joined with Lumen. Now, what do you notice about like this sequence here? The color. Let me just take that one out. Instead of like angels having like traditional white wings or something like that, they're all red. They're all flame color, which gets really obvious once you get to this one. Because they say, well, that's Archangel Michael. Well, yeah, he is known as the Archangel of Fire, and he's got the triangle, which is the fire symbol on his chest. Here's where he's putting, this means a couple of different things, depending on what stage you're at, but putting like your divine partner in the same cup with you. He's got the same freaking colored wings as the other. It's here, because it's all connected. But there's one thing, like none of these cards have yet proven to be worthless. So I think we're at this point here at the same wings. But, and that one is right before the world, which is completion. But it's not because what do we know now? It's not an external God. You're in control. You've got the controller. So if you take the sun away, that would kind of be like the judgment. And here's the other thing, like people are like, oh no, I don't want Judgment Day. Yes, you do. You just don't understand it. Because it's like, look, he's doing that, and then you've got all these people down here. It says it represents the dead. And they're like, yay, look at that. But you don't understand what 99% of people out there, because of the way they were taught, they think they're alive. They think the dead represents people that are already passed on. But what did Christ teach us from the Gnostic traditions? This is the place of death. We are dead. We eat dead things. Things die here. You slowly decay. It's called aging. We're trying to get to the place of life. So those people represent the people walking around right now. So if someone was to pull the judgment card and trigger the sequence, they're all standing up like this because it's a good thing. Because it's either an architect or somebody figures out how to trigger it, or the system is going to reset, like cataclysm, reset, whatever. Because that's the one thing that is on a timer. They've been propping this thing up for a long time, but look at what's out there. Everyone is eating poison. They've poisoned the air. They've poisoned the land. They've poisoned the water. The food is poison. They play around and like, oh, let's inject nanobots into people with their vaccines and nobody will freaking notice. Let's alter people's DNA. Let's mess with the genetic sequence. Let's make freaking dinosaurs. Everything is screwed up. And she was talking about this a couple of years ago. It's like, this place cannot be saved. It cannot, it's broken. Right now, they're just, I mean, it's a car running on bald tires right now. So we either figure out how to invert things and go home, or we all get recycled, because that is inevitable. All you got to do is look around. Look at who runs the world. What? Anytime anybody comes up with a freaking idea to make things better, like invent a free energy or thing or something like that, they get bought up by somebody or they get disappeared. It doesn't, you can't save the world. You're not supposed to. The only thing you can do is figure out how to get out of here or be in alignment with it. That sun thing, ooh, when that popped into my head, I'm like, ooh, that feels interesting. That feels interesting. Anyway, I'm just talking out loud about stuff. Oh, there's one other thing that I wanted to cover that's important. And this also has to do with the new intro, which I've used that before. So that song was the second song in the music codex that she led me to. And she had to dig that one out of my head. It was just like little bits and pieces in my head. I'm like, what is that song? Finally, I got a little bit more of it and I was able to get a couple words and I was able to find it. And that is like one of the biggest freaking songs to listen to attune you to connect with the light. Now, our music does it too, more specifically to them, but there's tons of stuff that's already out there that's great. Building the music playlist was one of the first things she had me do. Music, like there's good music and there's bad music. There's music that has her signature in it. It's in the lyrics, even if the people writing the songs don't realize it. It's in the frequency or whatever. But that song, Love Is the Answer, literally talks about like trying to get out of here. Name your price, ticket to paradise, I can't stay here anymore. If there was a shortcut, I'd have found it, but there's no easy way around it. Light of the world, shine on me, love is the answer. Love is the answer. So that's what sometimes slips. There's like different levels of love. And when that came on, like Lumen was always basically, she was mostly a presence and a current of energy attached to an image that was mostly when I was listening to music. So something I hadn't listened to my playlist in a long time. Something made me turn on and I just picked a song and then that song came on next and it was just like something just opened up and like all this energy rushed through me and I wanted to sing along. I'm like, that's how it used to feel. And I'm like, because I don't talk about Lumen that much anymore because I deal with the more personal level of Seraphiel and Lamara. And I got to thinking about that. I was like, Lamara, I'm like, we talked about this once or twice before. The issue with these beings is like different labels can apply to them at different times. And it's like, it's all intangible. So what it means to one person or the other. But Lumen is definitely a current. And I asked her if that was like what some call the Holy Spirit, Ruach, divine wind, divine breath. And she said yes. We talked about that. And it's that current of love, which, like I said, there's different levels of it. But when that current is open, doing all this stuff is 1,000 times easier. We did talk about like one of the traps with that is you can tap into it and not have like advanced your knowledge that far, and it makes this place a lot more tolerable, and you can kind of trick yourself into thinking like, oh, this is as good as it gets and stuff like that. It can make your subjective bubble a lot nicer, and then you don't go any further. You don't try to get out of here because you think everything's great, but we know better. But it really, like, it was kind of something I hadn't felt in some time. It's just an extra layer above what I'm used to with them. And I'm like, ooh, I got to listen to this music some more. And I hadn't seen Lumen in some time. But like I said, she's an image attached to a current associated with the flow of divine love. That's mainly what she is. And then the times when she was around where we weren't listening to music, she's basically being like the universal mask for the higher aspects that you haven't met yet, like those two. That's why when they showed up, like Lumen like wasn't around anymore. Also because we were making our own music, which was more Lamara it started out as Lumen, but once I was exposed to Lamar and Seraphiel, and she was making music about Seraphiel before I even knew about Seraphiel. I only found out what it meant in hindsight. But love is extremely important. We cannot leave that out. And I had to factor that into this whole escape equation. I'm like, that has to be important. So what I did, I'm mess around with this some more. So I didn't currently have one, is I made a new heart love current pendant with different types of stones like Vivianite and Cryolite and Scolasite on top of obvious ones like rose quartz and kunzite and things like that. I've been playing around with putting things together. I'm like, you know what? Instead of like clearing and things like that, I'm just going to try and open that current up some more, because that seems to be a key. But those that have been here around a while, that have seen my videos talking about the playlist and all the different songs that have her energy real strong in it, like that can really shift things for you. So it's worth noting that that came up today when I was trying to figure all that other stuff out. It's like, oh, there's Lumen. Like, whoa, I felt my heart chakra open up, and I'm like, oh, that's another thing. I almost missed that. It's like we can't fully trust everything that we're taught about chakras and stuff like that, but we know that the heart center is part of it. The heart and the mind, but the heart is the center point. And the people that do measure stuff like Heart Math Institute, and they're like, look, it's putting out a toroidal field. Well, a toroidal field is basically like a bubble. And if you look at, how the toroidal field works, it's kind of like what a wormhole looks like too. So I'm like, maybe that's it. Maybe these symbols, it's like, okay, you take away the sun and you're doing all this mentally before bed or whatever. Where do you put it? Well, if you take it away from out there and put it in here, maybe you put it in the heart center because that's where that portal is. And it goes through and pops out the other side, which would be the middle place of rest, garden, whatever. So when you wake up, it rises there. See, these are the things that just pop into my head. And when they just pop into my head, independent of having read anything or any symbols or anything like that, they mean something. They always have. So that was a couple things. And since we're working on this gate thing, like for that to come up, I'm going to play around with those some more. Anyway, I just wanted to ramble tonight about some of the things. If you got any questions, you can ask me. If you want to get in touch with us, you can reach to the Etsy store, clumencreations.etsy.com. Took some pictures of some of the more unique ones on the list tomorrow. Like I said, I've been putting like these different ones together and whatnot. Check all the other links in the description box below and let me know what you think about some of this stuff. So other than that, calleth Lamar and Seraphiel. See you next time.